Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, welcome back to our classes in basic writing skills. First of all, I'd like to go back to a little bit to what we have discussed. So writing, as we said, is a process that needs to think and gather and start to think about the topic you want to write about, and you start your draft. Okay, after the draft, you try to filter it to check the background of the paragraph, the grammar, the content, and everything before you submit it to your teacher. We have already discussed two kinds of paragraphs. We discussed the process, okay, and the other one. And then today, inshallah, we're going to start or to discuss another two types of paragraph: opinion and narrative paragraphs. As you see here, dear students, number one, opinion paragraphs. In the opinion paragraph, the core purpose actually to express an opinion and logically persuade the reader to agree with you. As you know, guys, we have already discussed this point as why we write. We write to create awareness among the people, either in newspapers or nowadays with social media, either in Facebook and Twitter. So we post we write our posts and share it with others to get feedback, to make them agree with what I have already said about this. So here the opinion is the core paragraph, the core kind of this type of writing that will directly goes to the reader to see either he is going to buy your opinion or not. Here the focus is rigid organization. So the rigid organization, as you know, is among all the types of the paragraphs is the same. We have the topic sentence, the supporting sentence, and the concluding sentence. So we have the rigid organization, the compelling reasons. Here in the opinion paragraph is if you want others to be persuaded to buy what I say, to eat what I say, okay? So I have to have compelling reasons that are very strong to let them really accept what I say. Verifiable facts. Okay, if the fact I want to support my opinion with, I have to be verifiable, not just because of me. I read it in one book or two books, or say I said it is with a fact. No, there should be a fact that's really a fact. 1 + 1 makes 2. The other one is the most interesting and done by any one of us, the narrative paragraphs. And as you see, we like this. We like it to have it in mostly in speech. When we gather together with our friends, we narrate actually. We tell stories. We tell stories about others. Here also, it's possible to change it into writing. In the narrative paragraph, we narrate. This is what we see actually in films, in movies, in sketches. They are narrative paragraphs actually, or a narrative type of writing actually. And the core purpose to tell compelling story also. The story should be compelling. Otherwise, they really buy it, they like it, they wanted to continue reading it. Share a lived experience, the experience that we have already had, or someone we knew very, very well, and he has that experience and would like to narrate it or to tell others about it. Here the focus is different, the chronological flow, because you tell a story, you have to start from the beginning. Where does it exactly? So to set the scene, where is it? Is it the kitchen, in the house, in the school, whatever? The sensory details. Every time you have all the senses, okay, let the reader use the senses. He feels what you say. Eyesight or smells something, even in your story. The emotional resonance, of course, very important to create emotionally. Either some professional writers, they let the reader, they cry and they laugh. So this is your job, to try to make resonance, emotional, very strong, and create it among the reader. Here, let's say, as we always say, this is the building. We have the beer, the lowered beer, and the roof, and the basement or the base, the foundation. Here we have the paragraph, the opinion paragraph. The topic sentence introduce the topic and clearly states the writer's opinion about something. One of the paragraphs, we have an example provided by the book between your hands. You will see in Vietnam. It's he talked about a very interesting place to spend your honeymoon, inshallah. When you get married, or those who are already married, they can plan to go there. It's really convincing. Let's hear, in Vietnam, the best place to spend a honeymoon in the beautiful mountain city called Dalat. Here, this is the topic sentence. So he tells you about where you should spend your honeymoon. In the load bearing wall, supporting sentences, the middle section that gives reason to support the opinion, preventing the argument from what collapsing. Because if your argument collapse in any way, so it makes your paragraph is very weak, unacceptable, and no one is going to read it anymore. So you have to be very careful about to support your opinion with a very compelling reason, as we said. The foundation, concluding sentence, as they said, they restate the opinion in different words and summarizes the main reason grounding the entire structure. Let's see here. In the loading pair walls here, the loading, the most important part in the paragraph, either to support your paragraph with facts, a piece of information people generally agree is true, either scientific or historical. For example, winter in Chicago are very cold, and the summer in Thamud is very tough and very hot. For example, somewhere else, Antarctica, of course, is very cold. So here in Chicago, you have to convince the reader to be ready if he thinks to move there and to live there. Explanation cannot be proven like facts, but helps the reader understand why the writers hold a certain opinion. It's not easy to deal with those cold, windy days. So this, again, we talk about what? That Chicago. After giving him the fact that winter is very cold, he said it's not easy to deal with that kind of cold, even if you came from the cold place. But this one is a very strong and tough. My cousin once, look here, he supported his paragraph with experiences, something that happened to you or someone else, showing how you were influenced. My cousin once got frostbite while waiting at the bus stop. Imagine this kind of coldness in this area. Even the people there who are not, you can say, get used to such kind of low temperature, very low temperature, they get what? Frostbite. Frostbite is very dangerous actually, because it stops blood from and it freezes the blood also in your cells. It usually affects your fingers, your toes. So you see here he gave you a very nice example, a very compelling example to tell you this Chicago is not an easy place to live in. Here, as you see here, from the fact to the explanation, and the last one from experience. You can use, it's better of course to use the three of them, but it's possible to use one, two or what? Two. Not one is not possible, not acceptable usually. Now, if I want to provide or to talk about my reason, okay, or my argument, when I support my argument, I have to the causality. In the causality here, the syntax of causality. Why don't you want me to live in Chicago? Because or because of. Here you see the difference between because or because of. Because of plus noun or noun phrase. People spend a lot of time outdoors. Why? Because of the mild climate. And as you see here, even in our area, in Tarim, in Sayoun, in the Wadi, and even in Sana'a and everywhere else, when the climate is mild, especially in April, March, or mostly February, especially in the Wadi here, many people stay outside for a long time. They play domino, they do this and that, they go to the stadiums or the grounds to play football, because the weather encourages them to continue playing and keep being out of their home. So here, because of. So because of followed by noun phrase, the mild climate. The mild climate. Sometimes someone tells you, why didn't you come to the party? Oh, because of someone, because of Ali, because of Ahmed. I didn't come to the party because of Ahmed was there, for example. So here, because of, the most important thing to remember, it's followed by noun phrase. When I say noun phrase, there is no verb. There is no verb. It's not a sentence. On the contrary, because, contrast what I said about that because of. And because we use subject plus verb, complete sentence. You see, because followed by subject, verb, complete sentence. Here we have tourists are attracted to the coast. Why? Because the fishing is fantastic. Here we have subject, fishing, and we have the verb is. So all of these are very important. We have to be very careful when you present your argument. Of course, in this case, you would use either because or because of, both of them. But remember how to use them grammatically in the causality of syntax, or the context of causality. Let's see now stating facts structurally. Since we talk about the opinion, we have to state the fact. How can we state the fact? Either, of course, we use it there is or there are. Very simple. I know that sometimes look at it as very simple, so no one will use it. Why do we use there is and there? No, they are very important thing, especially when we talk about opinion and stating our opinion about something. Introducing fact, check the nouns. For example, plural nouns. What do we use? There are. Follow the arrow. There are tall pine trees lining the street. There are. So I tell you, so I support the beauty of that place with the lining pine, with the tall pine. Of course, they provide shadow in the afternoon or at noon. The other one here, the singular non-count noun, we use what? There is. There is water beyond the mountain. When I want to talk about this, there is no water beyond. So he's Here I use is because it's photo, it's non-count. There is so and so. In the negative facts, okay, use there is, there are with the word no. There are no mosquitoes at this altitude. So here it's very important to use these three things. So we have two means. Number one, because of, to support or to convince or to present our argument. And the other one, to state the fact, we use there is and there are in the case they need. Here we have the last slide was the last one about the opinion paragraph. Let's move on to the second or the fourth type or the last type prescribed for us in this term in the basic writing skills, which is what? The narrative paragraph, or the narrative, as I told you before, the narrative paragraph. Yes. Number one, the launch, how we start, how we get there. Topic sentence. Tell the reader what the story will be about and establish the setting, when and where. Example, for my 25th birthday, my uncle gave me a certificate to go skydiving near Miami. So here is a very captive paragraph about his story, because we talk about skydiving. You know skydiving? It's when you are in a plane and then you throw yourself outside. You see? It's very amazing. You become like a bird, but it's very dangerous too. So here he tells us the first one, or the topic sentence. For my 25th birthday, my uncle gave me a certificate to go skydiving near Miami. So he starts his journey now at the top. Look at the top here. Here we have the plot, we call it. The plot. What happened? Okay. Now the journey supporting sentences tells the details of the story, mapping out the sequence of the events and layering the sensory emotional details. This one, of course, this paragraph is there in your book. You can read it by yourself, and you may get help from the AI to translate for you, and then you write it again. This is my advice, of course, for those who want to improve their writing. The last one, they go back. As you see the curve here, they start down and then go up and then go down. This is what happened when we follow the story from someone, or read a story, or we watch a movie, and in the beginning everything is stated, everything is quiet, easy. In writing, of course, you see it in the words they use, the action they talk about. But in the middle of the movie, or in the middle of the serial we follow in the TV, here you have the top. We are completely concentrated, focused on what is going to happen to the hero or to the heroine. Here we have the landing. This is here we simplified it with an example of a plane. So it takes off and then goes up in the atmosphere and then goes down. The landing. Concluding sentence wraps up the story and comments on why the experience was important or how the writer felt afterward. Here we have in the narrative, we have to be very careful and create both sensory details and emotional details. So dual lenses of the narrative detail. We want the reader to be with us all his five senses. Number one, give the information about how something looks, smells, tastes, feels, or sounds. Because some people really, they are very nice when they narrate their meal when they had it somewhere. They let you feel hungry even you are full. For example, this sentence taken from one of the paragraphs also there in your book, talks about a very scary incident or experience. He said, my teeth were shattering. This has happened when it's very cold. Have you had this before? Imagine if it's very cold and you are outside. What happened to your teeth? They don't stop. They just shut like this. And my legs felt like jelly. You know jelly? You tasted it in last Ramadan, right? Or you don't like it? Okay, anyhow. Look at it. It doesn't stop moving. Just have the bowel and in your hand, and it moves here and there. So when you are very frightened, very scary, this happened to us normally, actually. Here, for example, when he talks about his journey or his narration, when he talks about his story, when he went out in the very sunny day, he said the morning sun warmed my back, because this man was in the sea, and the sun was very sunny at that was shining and very sun, so it warmed. As we walk nowadays in Sayon or in somewhere else, especially in May and the end of April, so it starts to warm our backs. Even in Sayon, actually on Tarim, it burns our back rather than warm, actually. Emotional details helps the reader understand the writer's initial feelings, the mental state. See here, the emotional. What are the emotions there? How does he feel? Suddenly, my fear vanished and I felt confident. This is about a very young lady, a very confident girl or a very adventurous girl. There was a house or a horse he want to jump to the next part. So she was afraid, but she got confident and she tried and she did it. So at the end of the moment she got to the floor, she said, suddenly my fear vanished and I felt confident, of course. The sight filled me with excitement. When you go somewhere and then, for example, you go to Eb or Mahwit, it's completely different from the landscape here in Tarim and Sayoun. The mountains are very brown here and very rocky, but there they are very green and the landscape is really amazing. So you want to show the reader how do you feel? You say the sight filled me with that excitement, of course. That's why when we look at the green areas and the areas with water, they will become very excited. Here in the narrative, we have to be very careful about the directing the flow of time. You have to be very careful. For example, you have a trip from Sayoun or from Tarim to Mukalla. So the first sentence after the topic sentence, you have to be very careful what happened in Tarim, what happened in the road between Sa and Tarim, and then from Sa to Al-Adwas, from Al-Adwas to Mukalla, for example, and what happened in Mukalla as a whole, okay, in the first day, second day, third day. You cannot mix things and then you start on Mukalla and then you come back to Tarim. This is unacceptable in the narration. And even the reader or the listener, they got distracted. They don't like to listen to you and to read your posts. We unpacked the car. After that, we built a fire. Here we have a symbol taken from a paragraph also in your book about guys who went camping. So when he started talking about the camp, after that topic sentence, he started to tell us the steps one by an event after the event. We unpacked the car. So they took everything out of the car, the tent, the wood, the lighter, everything. And then he said, after that, we built a fire. We built a fire. How come they go, if you make it the opposite direction, it will be not acceptable. How can they build the fire without unpacking their car? Because in the car, because they came to a place where there is nothing. Okay, it's not a city, it's a camping somewhere near the sea, near the water, near the river, in the park. Okay, so in the mountain. So they need something to start the fire with. So here it's very important, as I told you, to be very chronological one by one. These things, how are they clearly stated in the writing? We use next, after that, afterwards, then, later. These linking words are very important. Finally, eventually, soon, and so on. Two words you have to be very careful about if you want to use them actually. Number one, first. First, it must come in the beginning. Because first means number one. You cannot put first in the middle or at the end. The last one is finally. Finally also means the last thing happened in the story. So finally here it's the last one. Never use in the middle. So these two words you have to be very careful. First and finally. Others next, after that, don't worry. There is no rule for them. Okay, there is no rule. You can use this or that in the place you want. Just remember the word then. We don't use comma after it. Don't be distracted by the comma here in the slide. The slide here is different because he's multi-mission different things. So after words and then we put then. No. But when we use then, go back to your book and you will find it. When you use then, never use or put comma after it. Others, yes, they have to put after first, after that. Every one of them, they have to be followed by what? By comma. And events or the action happen in the story actually. Sometimes they are simultaneous. They happen at the same time. That's why they call it parallel. Okay, you see these two arrows? The arrows, they go in the same direction. Okay, God, I made coffee. So he was setting the scene for his narration of for his story. My brother tried to distract our mother. So two things happen at the same time. He was making the coffee and his brother was trying to distract his mother. Here, usually, what do we use as words or subordinate words? We have meanwhile, while, at the same time, at that, so on. Tense line. We have to be very careful about the tense, especially in narration. The tense timeline, action and interruption. Here we have the past continuous with past simple. When we set the scene of the story, for example, my mother came while I was cooking lunch. Here, past continuous. Describing an event that was already in progress, we use was, were, plus verb, plus ing, as you know. For example, the car was moving slowly when we heard the crash. Here, the simple past. They happen at the same time. So one of them interrupted the other. Every one of us continued doing something, especially here in our miserable area here in Yemen and Tarim as a whole. You are working on your computer, you are cooking in your kitchen, you are working in your office. Suddenly the electricity goes off. So you are doing something continuously and the cut of the electricity stopped your work. Here we have what? Simultaneous. So the car was moving slowly when we heard a crash. Or for example, you say, I was cooking lunch when the electricity or with the gas cylinder finished. And this is a nightmare actually nowadays. Here we have this background, the snake man. We have this services taken from one of the paragraphs also. Sequence words we use, he used then. Here you see then there is no what? There is no comma. And then he used the sensory details, shows visual and kinetic, okay, action, thrashed around furiously. When you talk about the snake, about the snake. As the snake thrashed around furiously, then at last the sprung were so and so. A simple past tense also decisive, compelling, completed events. The writer's diagnostic matrix about these two types of the paragraphs. We have to be very careful to know when we want to write about this type of paragraphs different from another type. First one, the opinion in the blue color. The primary goal is to construct a logical argument and persuade the reader. And there are plenty of points and point of views here in Hadramaut, in Yemen. We don't agree with even with our ourselves even sometimes, but actually with our brothers and sisters and our family or with friends or with the people we sit with. Many. If you have to be convinced, you have to persuade. The paragraph anatomy. Okay, how can we analyze the parts of the paragraph? Number one, we have the topic sentence, the opinion, the load-bearing reasons. They are the argument in the support, and the last one, the conclusion, either the summary or stating what or restating the stuff. Facts, explanation, logical explanation. These come usually in the type of detail used. Key grammatical tools we have to use. There are, because of. Because we're providing the reasoning in our paragraph. The second one is narrative, the direct, memorable, seen and shared experience. This is one. The narrative, as I said, every one of us, when they come back from somewhere, from Mukalla, from Umrah, from Hajj, when they step in their house, everyone is looking at them, focusing as they narrating their story from the time they moved from Hadramaut to Saudi Arabia and Kaaba, and how they did their Umrah or the Hajj, inshallah, in the coming months. Here the topic sentence, the setting the scene. I had a scary night. For example, here my Umrah was amazing. I felt very exhausted in Hajj this year, for example. And then we have chronological plot, the peak, okay, of the story. What happened? Because it started very slow and this goes up. Conclusion, the reflection. How did you see it? The sensory details, sight, sound, touch, and emotional details. A simple past, of course, we talk about story and narration. So we have mostly we use simple past, complete action, past continuous, longing action. As I said, when you are, for example, while we are driving to Mecca, the car stopped, for example, or the tire punctured and so on. With this, we come to the end. We have to be very careful about form follows function. The great writing is never an accident. No, it's not an accident. This is what I wanted to do, guys, because in secondary schools, you like it just to have your pen and paper and start what to write. No, in writing here it's a process. It is a process. You have to specify the type you want to talk about. You have to specify the thing, the vocabulary, the structure that is match or fit that kind of writing. So it's not an accident. Whether building an unshakable opinion or directing visceral narrative, the impact of your words depends entirely on the blueprint you choose to organize them. With this, we come to the end of our episode or this session, in which we talk about the other two types of paragraphs, the narrative and the opinion. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you got benefit from what I say. And again, I tell you to go back to your book and study it well and try to do the exercise there by yourself, not by the help of anyone else. Thank you very much. See you inshallah next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.